So today we're going to be putting my timing back together on my Subaru engine. So I got a box of new parts, water pump, timing belt kit. I got all new seals for the camshafts. So I did get this seal replaced, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how I did that on this seal and the crank as well. So first you're going to need one of these, and this is a Lisle. It's like a seal puller, and it's got these little ends on it. You can sneak the ends of these behind the seal, kind of like that. And then you use this as a leverage point, and it pulls the seal. It'll pull the seal out of the bore, and that's exactly what I'm going to do with this cam pulley. This is like the only way to do this. I did round off them corners right there because they're kind of sharp, and I didn't want that to scratch the camshaft or crankshaft, whatever shaft that it spins in. Because if you scratch up that shaft where the seal rides, as you're putting this thing in there, it's going to leak. So on this other camshaft, the seal was literally the hardest one I've ever had to take out, and I don't understand why really. But I know the heat gun helped out a bunch, as it is a little bit cold out today. So I'm going to heat around this seal to kind of loosen it up and make the seal a little bit more pliable. Oh, right there. Popped right out. So that one was a little bit easier. So another little quick tip while you're doing this, you can see how the seal has two lips on it. So when you push this in, you can easily feel it go to that middle ground right there, but you got to push this thing way far back so it gets behind the seal and actually grabs that. You can see obviously where I grabbed it right there and where I tore it right there. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about because when you're pushing this in, it seems like it goes in super far. So there's a little bit of grease around that camshaft, and there's also a little bit of grease around the outside of this new seal. So here's a 3D printed piece that I made that is going to push this seal right in. So you push that right onto there, screw in the bolt. Alright, and that's tight now. You can see the camshaft's moving. Loosen it back up. The seal is in there, it's super square, the right depth, and now we can move over to the crankshaft. Alright, there we go. That one was tough. So, this tool, I'm telling you guys, pry these seals right out of there. So before you guys put on your water pump, you need to make sure this whole surface is absolutely flat. Now in this corner, that's been bumped, and there's a little tiny high spot right there. So what I'm gonna do is I got this piece of steel that's been ground, and I'm gonna sand over this, and that'll get any high spot off. So we got a couple bolts in the water pump, and I'm ready to put the other ones on. So sometimes I get a lot of hate for this, but I'm gonna use red Loctite and everything in here and this whole timing cover, just so nothing comes out, because if it comes out, then it's gonna get caught in all the pulleys and I'm gonna be done. So red Loctite on these bolts as well as all the other ones. Got the new water pump on, got this plastic on, there's another piece of plastic here, and now I'm going to start putting on the two pulleys for the camshafts. So this is something new that Gates wants you to do. I've never had to do it before, and I've replaced several timing belts. They want you to bleed the tensioner in case any air has gotten into it, and basically you want the piston on top, like the pin facing up, and they just want you to pretty much cycle this hydraulic tensioner to get any air in it that may have gotten in it when they shipped it or whatnot. They want you to do this 3 times. It's not that big of a deal, and then you can put it on. So I got the timing belt all on, and I just want to say this cog gear you want to leave loose, and this needs to be the last one you put on. And when you put it on, it needs to be around the belt, and then at the same time it's around the belt, you need to put the bolt in. So this is the last one you want to put on, because the only thing you have to do is lift this up a little bit, and then you put it on, torque it down, and you're good. And then you pull the pin. Just push it up a little bit, and then the bolt lines up. So I do still have to pull this pin out of the tensioner, and I don't know if you'll be able to tell the belt tightening up or not, but it's worth a try. So that's all it's got. And I mean, the belt's tight, everything's good. I just rechecked all the tensioners. All these tensioners have the red dot on them because when I tighten them, when I tighten a bolt, I mark it, tighten another bolt, I mark it, and everything's marked, everything's looking good. So I'm gonna start putting the cover back on and wrapping this thing up. That dash right there, and that is the crankshaft top dead center. So this sprocket's in time as well. That little dash with that red, that pink, that's where the line is. So that lines up perfectly as well. So this pulley's pretty easy to see. It's got that line right there, and it's got the where the cam journal is, where it bolts to the head. It meets right where that mating surface is. So we are all in time, and that is after I turn this over. So in the kit, they give you this little shim. The manufacturer specification calls for 0.5 to 1 mil. So half a mil to 1 mil, and that's what you're looking at is that guide and the crankshaft's right there, and this should fit right in between there, and it should be your little, basically your little feeler gauge to set that limit. The problem is this shim that they give you is too thick. So this is like 1.25 mil. So that's, I mean, you can't get it in there. And my little guide is brand new, and it won't fit. So I looked it up, and that thing, it's too thick. So I'm gonna use these feeler gauges. This one's 0.75, and this one is a half a mil. So I'm gonna see if one of these fit, and if these fit, then I'm good to go. So that's the guide we're looking at, and there's the belt. So I should get half a mil to 1 mil clearance in there. This is the half mil feeler gauge, and this one slides right in. There's a little bit of friction. This is 0.75 mil, and that one just starts to catch. So it's somewhere in between half a mil and 0.75, which is perfect actually. It's on the lower side of the clearance, and we're good. These are tight, everything's good to go. So the piece that they give you, it won't even think, I mean, you can just get it started, but this thing won't even think about going in there, and I could not get this to work because it just wouldn't get loose enough. So I could open up them holes, the mounting holes where the bolts go through, but this is way too loose. So I'm just gonna run it like that. This is a brand new part. I didn't have this. It was like $6, and this is only on manual transmission cars. So if you have an auto, this won't even be here. So this engine was from an automatic. It already had the holes, the tapped holes, and the bosses for these screws, and I just simply screwed it right in. I bought the 2 bolts, bought this little guide, and put it on because this is a manual transmission. And this will allow this not to jump a tooth on the crankshaft, and the only time it'll do that is if this engine really gets jolted, or someone wrecks into you, or this thing gets hit, and then it'll possibly like jolt. With normal engine operation, this thing will not jump. I probably got 20,000 miles on this engine, and this thing has not jumped time. It probably will never jump time. But since this is on the manual transmission Subarus, this is a manual transmission van, figured I'd put it on there. So the sticker probably won't last this long, but figured I'd put it in there anyway. That'll be like 10 years from now. Timing cover's all on, crank pulley's on and torqued. Just put this new belt on. It's tight, alternator's tight. I gotta put on that aluminum shield where them studs are, and it protects the exhaust from the timing belt from that plastic cover getting real hot. So I got her all back together, and I would start it, but it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and I don't want to wake up my parents or the neighbors or anything else. So we're just gonna have to save that for tomorrow's video. I'll get coolant in it, make sure the oil's good, and try to fire it up. So it's 1 o'clock in the morning, a little bit after, and I've been cranking on this van. But it's gonna be cold, so it's gonna be cold from like here on out, which is why I got this done, because I wanted to get coolant in it, and I don't have to worry about it freezing. I don't have to crawl around on the ground late night anymore. I do have to get this thing done, but this can be inside in the garage. It's way like warmer in here, even with the door open. It just feels like it's warmer in here. So I think that does it. Got all the stuff cleaned up out there as well. There was nothing like too exciting. I was just putting the exhaust on and bolts, and it was kind of a hassle, honestly, so I didn't really mess with the camera too much. But I'm ready to go in, go to sleep. I gotta edit this video. It's gonna be a late one tonight. So we only got a couple more things left on the van. That was one like big one, and I'm glad I got it out of the way. Hopefully everything's good, everything's right, everything's tight. We'll start it up tomorrow, and I'll see you guys then.